let's see, one more click on the clock. Yeah, it's 9:29,
Okay.
but we'll start.
You're the timekeeper.
We'll start. I'll call to order the meeting of the Nantucket Memorial Airport Commission for July 12th, 2019. The meeting is being both audio and video recorded. Commissioner Buscarin is on the phone, is not able to be present for reasons of geographical dislocation. Commissioner Gasparo had to cancel out relatively at the last minute because of another commitment. Have everybody seen the agenda? Are there any comments?
No.
Mr. Buscarin, do you have any comment?
I have none.
Thank you. I will interrupt to remind everybody that all votes have to be by roll call. Hearing no objections to the agenda, it is adopted. Are there any comments or corrections to the minutes of the meeting of June 11th, 2019? Hearing none, I will entertain a motion to approve the minutes of June 11th.
So moved. Second.
How do you vote, Mr. Buscarin?
Aye.
Ms. Topham?
Aye.
Ms. Planzer?
Aye.
The chair votes aye. I will entertain a motion to ratify the warrants of June 19th and June 30th, 2019.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. How do you vote, Ms. Topham?
Aye.
Mr. Buscarin?
Aye.
Ms. Planzer?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Thank you. The election of officers. Obviously, it's a little awkward because Mr. Gasparo is not here. I will say that Mr. Rafter talked to him. He is happy with his present role unless the commission determines otherwise. So, first of all, I will take nominations for the office of chair.
I will nominate Dan Drake, Mr. Drake.
Are there any other nominations? Hearing none, is there?
You're happy to continue.
I'm happy to continue, thank you. Is there a motion for the election of Mr. Drake as the chair?
So moved. Aye.
Second? Do you second the motion? Thank you.
I thought I just made it.
Well, I don't know. Ms.
Made, I don't know if anybody's second.
Yes, it has been seconded now. How do you vote, Ms. Planzer?
Aye.
Mr. Buscarin?
Aye.
Ms. Topham?
Aye.
And the chair abstains. Accept nominations for vice chair.
I'll nominate Mr. Casparo. I'll second.
Are there any other nominations? Hearing none, please, somebody make a motion to elect Mr. Gasparo as vice chair.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second.
How do you vote, Mr. Buscarin?
Aye.
Ms. Topham?
Aye.
Mrs. Planzer?
Aye.
The chair votes aye. Is there public comment at this time on anything that is not on the agenda? Hearing none, we'll move on to pending leases and contracts. Mr. Rafter.
Thank you. The first we have is a contract agreement with Nantucket On Island Chefs, and that's a business fee of $1,500. It's a catering agreement plus the 25% catering fee. We then have an operating agreement with Louis LLC doing business as Fly Louis, again a business fee, and they're an air charter broker. We have an operating agreement with Fly the Whale, and a business fee of $1,500. They are an air charter airline for the Flyblade affiliate. They also pay landing and ramp fees and other associated fees. We then have an operating agreement with Spectaculaire LLC. Theirs is paid under their umbrella of Allies Air, and that's for an air charter service. We have an operating agreement with Lion Air for $1,500. They're a scheduled service operator that provides service for Fly Louis. We also have a lease agreement with United Airlines, and that is their annual seasonal lease agreement, $21,920, plus monthly landing fees. We have the lease agreement with United Parcel Service, and that is for their lease of the property located at 143 Old South Road. That's for $59,317. It's a 5-year lease with 1 5-year extension plus a business fee of $1,500. We have a contract with McGeckran General Contracting for $114,251. That's for the administration building restoration project and partially funded through the insurance claim. We have a contract with the American Association of Airport Executives for $15,400 for their interactive employee training learning suite. That's a 1-year agreement that expires on June 30th, 2020. We have a contract with E1 for $36,080 for an AFFF testing system. You may recall we had some issues with regard to what's known as PFAS, and that will address us not dispersing foam into the environment. We then have a contract with RAD, which is a $0. It's referred to here as a change order number 1 to align the original contract. It technically is an amendment to the grant agreement, and that's for the seasonal hold room improvement project.
Could I ask a question about this employee training learning suite? Where is that? That's not the gentleman that comes down and gives us our training?
No, it's in the training room that used to be Bob Tallman's office.
Okay.
Where the computers are now. It's an interactive where all the employees sit down, and Joe or Dave no longer have to do it in person. You sit in front of a computer, put the headsets on, and it takes it through.
Okay, thank you very much.
Are there any other questions or comments on these? So the two that are,
No.
yeah, did you have a question, Mr. Buscarin?
I did not, no.
Okay, thank you. The two that are shaded in gray are not yet ready to be signed, right?
No, we're getting closer though. They're both related to the security project, and we're awaiting some further information today from FAA. We're meeting with the finance director as well this afternoon.
Okay, I will entertain a motion to accept the enumerated contracts and leases and operating agreements.
So moved. Second?
Thank you. How do you vote, Ms. Topham?
Aye.
Mr. Buscarin?
Aye.
Ms. Planzer?
Aye.
The chair votes aye. Thank you. Pending matters, Mr. Rafter?
On the crew quarters development, there's no significant change, but we are continuing to work with the consultant to develop the risk return financial model.
Oh, I'm sorry. Before you go on the pending leases and contracts, I just wanted to make the comment that last time the commission authorized me to sign a number of pending contracts because they were not ready to be signed. The only one I did sign, in fact, was Southern Airways. I believe that's the case, right? Okay, well, I only remember Southern Airways, but,
I believe it was a task order or something.
all right, well, anyway, that's essentially the story of what I signed.
Thank you.
All right, sorry, Mr. Rafter, start again.
So again, no significant change on the crew quarters, but we are continuing to work with the consultant on developing the model for the risk return and finances. On the Nantucket Memorial Aviation or Aviators Wall, the dedication is scheduled to take place on July 25th at 11 o'clock in the main lobby, right where the plaque is located. That's all.
Okay.
On to the next item.
Yes, but the gentleman that just left the room, he's coming back, I assume. Okay. We'll give
I
him,
can wait if,
yeah, we'll just hang on.
okay.
While we're waiting, I'm going to suggest, given the price of Mr. Buscarin's time, that we sign all the contracts after the executive session, if that's all right with everybody. So we'll go right into the executive session after the main meeting.
Okay, okay.
Thank you, Dan.
Always thinking of you, Mr. Buscarin.
Well, it's great. I thought you'd forgotten, but I feel much better now.
How could we forget you, Mr. Buscarin?
There's a difference between forgetting him and forgetting the value of his time. Mr. Walsh, are you ready for
right.
us?
Another smackdown.
Before we get into the next matter, I would just like to inform the commission that the operator in question, whom we're about to discuss, is a person with whom I have done business on a couple of occasions personally. Once to do some work in an unrelated field in my house, and once to hire his charter service. These events were at least 15 years ago, but I just wanted to let everybody know that this had happened. Thank you. Go ahead, Mr. Rafter.
Okay, so we issued a public operator notice of restriction. The commissioners have been sent a letter that is also in your packet restricting the individual from the airport. This notice was served to the individual in person on July 8th, 2019. In accordance with the approved airport rules and regulations, the airport manager has the power to immediately restrict an individual from the airport until such time as the airport commission rules on the issue. Therefore, I would request a vote to support this action. Again, included in our rules and regulations. I have the authority to do that, but the commission has the final determination on that.
As the operator and his attorney have been informed, there is no obligation on the part of the commission to hear him, but I will give one of them an opportunity to speak in just a moment. But if anybody has any specific questions on the nature, you've seen both the letter restricting him from the airfield, the communication from his attorney that came in yesterday, the communication back from the airport's attorney, David Mackey, to them. I'd like to know if you have any specific questions for Mr. Rafter about the events leading up to the action that he took, or the action itself.
I did not. I guess not, no.
Mr. Buscarin, do you have any questions?
No, I don't.
Thank you. All right, I'm going to allow either Mr. Walsh or his attorney, Mr. Yankow, to speak. It's up to you who it is. And it's a brief statement. This is not a public hearing. It is just
Courtesy?
It is a courtesy, and thank you. And it is, so I trust you will treat it accordingly in your remarks. Please identify yourself first.
I will. Hi, my name is Robert Walsh. I'd give my date of birth, but I'm not at the hospital, so. So anyways, I've been a pilot for 52 years. And for most of those 52 years, I've been an aircraft owner. Currently, I am an aircraft owner of two airplanes, and a third one that I represent. I've been in landing on Nantucket for 50 years. I even have a Nantucket Nectar's bottle cap to say that I have the most landings on Nantucket. My first landing on Nantucket was in July of 1969. Sorry. This is with the girl I ended up marrying. Been a property owner on Nantucket for 37 years. Paid taxes to the town. I've saved lives flying my airplanes from Nantucket with Dr. Lepre when even the Coast Guard wouldn't fly. And I want to continue to do that. Now I'm told I can't fly from here because of a letter from the manager that I have not been able to have a hearing with anybody on. To tell me that I can't operate from Nantucket Airport is like telling Harvey Young, can't ride a bike on the bike path. in Nantucket, but he can do it anywhere else in the world. I can land an airplane anywhere else in the world, but not Nantucket. I respectfully request that you have the airport manager reinstate my badge. If this requires a TSA hearing, so be it. I respectfully request that you reinstate my tie-down spot, South 1, SO1, for November 402, November X-ray. I respectfully request that you ask the management to stop harassing me for the FAA. Please. I don't know how you do it. Don't revoke his letter or just don't agree with him. And we're not here to litigate, but let's litigate in the future. And I'd like you to allow me to land my airplanes in Nantucket. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Walsh. Do you have anything more you'd like to say, Mr. Rafter?
The only thing I'd like to add is that in addition to what you have in writing, I've had a verbal conversation with Mr. Walsh where I explained to him that we were reviewing and investigating a number of things and that he was facing potential restriction. And subsequent to that, a couple of these issues that are in the letter here occurred. So he did not seem to heed the warning that I gave him verbally in my office.
One more time, Mr. Walsh.
This supposed violation happened almost 2 years ago. And I was under I went to Tom and I asked him, they took my badge, they wouldn't renew my badge, you know? I said to Tom, hey, why aren't you renewing my badge? He says, because you're under investigation. Didn't tell me what I was under investigation for, but I'm under investigation. I've been under investigation for 2 years, almost, coming on 2 years. I go in to talk to Tom about, you know, why, I forget what it was, about my badge or probably something. And he says, you're under investigation. I answered a letter and I about investigation about this guy Angelo. You got all that stuff there. I don't have to. But this guy Angelo with his badge, and I said, hey, you know, well, I don't want to talk about that. We were under strict rules with the TSA that da-da-da. So he wouldn't talk to me. But you're under investigation, and we're going to continue the investigation. This is 2 years later now. We're going to continue the investigation, and you're on notice that you're going to be this stuff. You know, you're going to be violated. Well, what? I don't know, but you're going to be violated. And that's when I respectfully thanked Tom for allowing me to speak, allowing me to talk to him, turned around and walked out because I was getting nowhere. And I have been getting nowhere with these people for 2 years. The assistant manager...
Be very careful what you say.
Yes, I know. The assistant manager approached my airplane when I came in on the 8th. He doesn't have the right to do that. There's no legal right for him to do that. Only the state police or the FAA can do that. He can do whatever he wants once I get in the terminal, but he has no right to do that. No right to do that. So I go into the terminal because I had to go. I just finished cancer surgery, prostrate, you know, and I have to urinate a lot. Yeah, and, you know, wear stuff that if you accidentally do it, you know, it won't show. But anyways, nobody will talk to me. Anytime I talk to the assistant manager, he denies everything. I request. You know, everything I request. I never got a positive thing from the assistant manager. I did get some positive stuff from Tom 2 years ago. I used to, you know, have a beer with him down in the fairgrounds. Talk to him. You know, and when he first got here, I invited him to Rotary. But the FAA and the DEA, especially the DEA going after Angelo is what started this whole round of stuff. The DEA going after Angelo, I believe that between the DEA, the FAA, and the manager, they were trying to build a case against Angelo. Equally, it ends up building a case against me. But I have
Okay,
nothing. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other further comments? Or?
I have a question because in some of the news articles and stuff that I read yesterday, it said that Angelo had your badge. How did he get your badge?
My badge,
If that's all right to ask through
it's
you,
fine.
through
Sure.
the chair.
Yes.
my badge was in my car. I was in Vermont. I keep my badge in the eyeglass case, closed up in the eyeglass case of my car. The only time I need my badge, I'm not wearing it now. The only time I need my badge, for obvious reasons, but the only time I need my badge is when I go on the AOA, My car was parked at the airport in the general aviation parking area, locked, and when I finish up, when I get off my airplane, go out, if I need my badge, but if I need my badge, it's in the car. When I leave my house, the badge, I don't leave it in my house to have to drive all the way back.
I understand. I
So,
leave my
yeah.
badge in the car,
I know. So, but that's,
but I locked my car.
my
Oh,
car
you locked, you
I
did say
locked
yours
my
was
car.
locked. Thank you.
My car is locked.
I'm sorry?
I'm not sure.
No, I don't think, yeah, right. What's the pleasure of the commission? To backstop the manager's decision or to revoke it? Is there a motion?
Or, I'm sorry, or
To-
revoke.
Revoke his determination that Mr. Walsh should be, overrule his determination that Mr. Walsh should be barred from the airfield.
I don't see any need to do that.
Well, do you want to make
So
a
in
motion
support of, yes. So I guess a motion.
to confirm the decision of the airport manager?
Yes.
Is there a second?
I'll second it for the sake of discussion.
Okay. You want to discuss it?
Well, I really don't know. I mean, Mr. Walsh is between a rock and a hard place, but I think he, I just find it hard that the person that got his badge was dealing marijuana or bringing marijuana, and I have a problem with that. So I'm probably not going to vote on this. I'm probably going to abstain just because I can't make my mind up, and I'm sorry.
Any other comments? There is a motion on the floor to uphold the, there's a motion on the floor to uphold the decision of the airport manager to bar Mr. Walsh from the airfield. How do you vote, Mr. Buscarin?
I vote aye.
Ms. Planzer?
Aye.
Ms. Topham?
Abstaining?
And the chair votes aye. So the commissioner's, the airport manager's decision is upheld.
Can I ask a point of clarification?
Yes, sir.
Is Mr. Walsh still?
Look, would you step up to the microphone, please, and identify yourself?
Thank you. My name is Keith Yanko, representing Mr. Walsh. I'm an attorney in Nantucket, and you all have the letter that I wrote, as mentioned before. Does the decision allow him to be a passenger on a private airplane? And does it allow him to be a passenger on a public air, Cape Air or JetBlue? Because it says in the letter, that he's not allowed on certain property. I forget what the.
It's a fair
technical-
question. It's a fair question.
I clarified that in an email yesterday to Mr. Walsh,
Oh.
that he is permitted to use commercial airline service through the terminal.
Which would include
Cape Air, JetBlue, American United, Delta, Retro.
Alliance, Tradewinds,
No, I said through the terminal, sir.
just the one terminal.
Yes.
And would there be is it indefinite, or is there a short, could the motion be of a shortened period of time? You know, is it forever?
I don't think anything's forever. I think at some point, if Mr. Walsh wants to reopen the issue, he should approach the airport manager but I would suggest waiting 6 months at least before doing that.
Would the board consider limiting it to 6 months?
Not at this point.
Yeah, I don't think we could.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to the manager's report.
On the project side of the house, you previously approved the contract for the rehabilitation of the first floor of the admin building, and that project will begin very shortly. We're looking to have a construction meeting probably within the next few days. The hold room phase 2, after a very long, arduous process due to Noah's perseverance and persistence, is complete. It's, well, I don't want to say it's fully operational with a concession and vendor, selling soft drinks and snacks, and seems to be working very well. Might be some minor tweaks that we make there, but it's a major improvement over what we had last year. Concrete hard stands, construction is complete. MassDOT previously agreed and funded patching on taxiway Echo, which I'll get into. We had an issue with that recently. I'll get into that in a little bit. But we're also going to be doing some additional testing on taxiway Echo as well with some of that funding. The runway markings job, the work is complete. There's some residual impacts to the runway that are creating some FOD issues, and that will be addressed in August. We have a contractor coming out to do that, as well as some marking on displaced thresholds. The generator airfield lighting, the final piece replacing the doors to the vault was completed this week, so that should be able to be closed out.
How many years?
I'm just glad Jamie's not here. As I said, the post-screening opportunity, that's up and operational. No change on the airport layout plan, geometry issue. We're still waiting a response from FAA. Environmental assessment and environmental impact statement, the work continues and reports are due, I believe, in the fall. Tank compliance services, within the next few months, we're going to be doing some removal of a tank that was for the generator for the air traffic control tower. PSC application number 2, work is being coordinated with the consultant and to proceeding with identifying which projects we'll be applying for. We're working on a Bunker Road drainage issue with our engineers, and we're also reviewing the final task order and scope of work for fuel farm rehabilitation. On the RFP and bid side of the house, we received the fuel supply bids and they're under review. Bunker Road parcels, we received 2 bids. They're also under review and anticipate award at the next meeting. On the operational side, for the July 4th period, which is about a 5-day period, we measure the holiday sales. They were up 5% over last year, or $28,199, and the total gallons, both jet and avgas, were up 11%. Also, for that same period, the number of passengers screened set a record, an all-time record for TSA. On July 6th, which was a Saturday, they screened 1,870, I think it was over 1,900 passengers was reported yesterday, compared to 1,364 the same day last year. And just to update the commissioners also, we had talked previously about changing the signs on the roadway to more of a Nantucket look. Those, now that we have a new fiscal year, those signs have been ordered and they've already been designed, so we're just waiting for the delivery for the install. And one other operational note, we had a minor incident last night. We had one aircraft strike another. It was between Retrix and Southern Airways. And that occurred on the ramp. So it's.
Could you repeat that, please?
There was one aircraft struck another. Retrix, I believe, struck the back of Southern Airways airplane while it was taxiing out.
Any damage?
From what I saw this morning, the back of the Southern airplane had some damage. I didn't see the Retrix airplane, so I don't know if they ferried it out and repair or what. But, that'll be investigated, so. Any questions before I move on to statistics? So operations for June, we're up 2.28. It's the first time in a while that operations were
I
up.
mean, May.
I'm sorry, in May, and down 21.2 year-to-date. Operations on the southwest ramp were up 3.9, almost 4%. Passenger enplanements were down 2.6 over last May, but up year-to-date almost 3%. Cape Air saw a 21% decrease in enplanements. JetBlue saw a 20% increase. Nantucket Air was down 7%, and Tradewinds up 3%. And Retrix was also up 20%. In May, JetBlue saw a 12% increase or 19 passengers in enplanements in the Washington market. In the Boston market, there was a total decrease of 1% or 35 passengers, with Cape Air having a 1% decrease, JetBlue a 2% decrease. New Bedford traffic continued to drop significantly, was down 65% or 441 passengers. As I mentioned previously, I believe some of that is associated with the
C Street?
no, not necessarily, but the completion of large construction projects. We were seeing a large contingent of contractors using that route.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Retrix entered the Westchester, New York market in May and carried 10 passengers, which is the same amount of passengers that were lost by Cape Air. So there was flat growth in that market. The Hyannis market for May was down 6% overall, or 102 passengers in total, with Cape Air down 210 passengers, Nantucket Air down 42 passengers, and Retrix up 150. In the JFK market, JetBlue saw an increase of 27% or 399 passengers. Cape Air carried 80 passengers for a market increase of 33% or 479 passengers. Vineyard traffic continued to decline, was down 81% or 123 passengers. They only carried 29 passengers with a load factor of 20%. Jet A gallons sold for May were down 6.09% or 4,440 gallons, but up year-to-date 8.6 gallons. And for June, they were up 11.28 or 22,289 gallons. Avgas for May was up 0.27%, year-to-date up 14.3%, and for June they were up 1.15%. The freight continued to climb, was up 15.4% over last May and up almost 10% year-to-date. And you can see, you have the detail, oh there it is, I'm sorry. You can see there's some strong growth in some of those markets. I believe it was the UPS Wiggins was very high. So it's, the freight
FedEx.
seems to be doing pretty well. On the noise side of the house, there were 5 complaints versus 1 of last year. The 5 complaints came from 4 different residents. 1 was an IFR, 1 was VFR not observing noise abatement corridors and was followed up with a pilot. 3 of them resulted in operations that took place on runway 1533, while 624 closures. The runway was closed for the markings, and replies or responses were 100% to all complaints. One other note, I have a tentative travel request.
Before we get to that, I just want to know if there are any questions on the balance of your report.
I was wondering, did you notice any uptick with, like when we had the strike for Stop and Shop? Do you get Amazon? Does that come air freight or does that go post office?
I believe it comes through UPS, if I'm not mistaken. It depends on the shipper, because actually when I've ordered from Amazon, I've seen it come through Postal Service, through UPS, various carriers. So
I was just curious because, I mean, so many people were using it and I wondered if they had continued or.
we'd have to go back and look at that. That's a good point. I don't know.
And I'm sure Walmart and everything else that everybody was using on the mainland to
And
ship.
that's what I think a lot of the freight increases driven by.
But that
is
was in
the
April,
online.
right?
Yeah, that's right, but I didn't know, I mean, people may have continued it
Yeah,
and
once they get
decided not to
comfortable with it,
go to Stop and Shop for some of it.
We'll take a look, it's a good point.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
All right, go ahead.
Tentative travel request is for the Airports Council International North America Conference that is held in Tampa on September 15th to the 17th. I want to review the agenda. There are two primary organizations in the industry. One that I'm very active in that I've attended before is the American Association of Airport Executives. That is a individual membership organization. The ACI group is an airport membership. We are not members because it is rather expensive. But I want to at least take a look and see if there's any relevant topics on the agenda, whether myself or a staff member attends.
When I looked at this, I saw Canada, so do people come from Canada also? Is this
This is an
particular one?
international organization, and the conference is ACI-NA, so it's North America.
Okay.
That is their region, if you will.
And how many conferences do you think are enough to go? I mean, does everyone have,
I'll
I'm
answer it
sure they have
another
all
way.
different items that you're discussing, but,
I'll answer it another way. You could go to 4 conferences a day if you really, because that's how they make their money. But,
right.
From my perspective, I look to try to go to 3 a year. But for staff, we look at what the value is and what the actual, educational component is. For example, there's a snow symposium where they give training for snow operators. They just started a new course for mechanics for snow removal equipment. So we'll probably be sending somebody to that. So it all depends on what the educational need is for the staff members and what is actually being presented at these conferences.
Yeah, I know when Jack worked at the electrical company of New England had 2, one in the spring, one in the fall, so that's why I was kind of asking.
And so the 3 I normally ask for are the annual American Association of Airport Executives, which is held somewhere in the country. The Northeast chapter of that, it's a chapter of that organization. There's 6 chapters, so that's all just Northeast.
And one
this
of them,
year,
you're an officer.
I was
You
a
were,
previous
okay.
officer, both of them. I don't believe I'm going to be attending this year. It's in August in Portland, Maine. August is extremely busy. And then the other is the National Airports Conference, which is a smaller version of your annual AAAE conference. And this year it's being held, last year I was the chair in Alaska. This year it's held in San Antonio, and I'm moderating a panel on that.
Thank you.
Yes.
Is there a motion?
Well, didn't you say it was on hold? You were gonna keep looking at it?
Well, I'd like the approval to determine
Oh,
whether it's
okay.
me or a staff member.
Yeah, because it,
And we're gonna look to see what the financial return is, if it's a value or not.
does anybody want to make a motion?
Sure.
To
Make a
approve
motion to approve the travel
to,
if needed.
to the ACI annual conference for Mr. Rafter. Is there a second?
I'll second, if needed.
Any further discussion or comment? How do you vote, Ms. Topham?
Aye.
Mr. Buscarin?
Aye.
Ms. Planzer?
Aye.
The chair votes aye. Are there any commissioners' comments?
I was wondering how Southern Airways was doing. How long have they been in operation?
I don't think long enough to give us actual monthly reports. Anecdotally, do we have any information on that, Noah?
Slow to start, but they say future bookings are looking good.
The future bookings are what?
Looking good.
Looking good. Okay,
But with
thank you.
damage to their airplane, they don't have a whole bunch to
They have
pull from.
2 new, well, for this market, they have 2. They have a number in their fleet. There's 20 or 30 of them, I
Right,
believe.
that's what they
The
said.
damage did not look significant, but it's certainly, I think, something that's gonna have to be looked at.
A brand-new
Right.
airplane, right?
Brand new.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but I don't think warranty's
Ouch.
gonna cover it.
Right. Anything else? Is there public comment at this time? Hearing none, I will entertain a motion to go into executive session, not to return to private session, to review executive session minutes as enumerated on the agenda, and under clause 6, the chair has determined that an open session may have a detrimental effect on the negotiating position of the airport commission in considering the purchase, exchange, lease, or value of real estate.
So moved.
Thank you.
Second.
How do you vote, Ms. Planzer?
Aye.
Ms. Topham?
Aye.
Mr. Buscarin?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Thank you.
And, Katie or Will